I stood in the private hospital corridor wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars, about to visit a dying stranger. My assistant had mixed up the room numbers. But when I pushed open that door and saw her lying there thin, pale, fighting for every breath, I realized she wasn't a stranger at all. She was the woman I'd abandoned 20 years ago. And the child sleeping in the chair beside her bed had my eyes. My name is Marcus Webb, and for the past 2 decades, I'd built an empire that made me untouchable. At 45, I own 3 tech companies, a venture capital firm, and enough real estate to house a small city. I lived in a penthouse in San Francisco, drove cars I barely remembered buying, and dated women whose names I forgot by morning. Success had a way of erasing the past, or so I'd convinced myself. The hospital visit wasn't planned. My assistant, Jennifer, had asked me to stop by St. Catherine's on my way to a board meeting. One of our employees, a mid-level software engineer named David Sheena, had a mother in critical condition, and corporate policy suggested a personal visit from leadership boosted morale. I didn't want to go. I had 6 calls scheduled and a merger closing in 48 hours. But Jennifer insisted it was good optics, and I'd learned that optics mattered more than authenticity in my world. She gave me the room number, 507. I remember because I checked my phone 3 times in the elevator, annoyed at the interruption. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and resignation. I hated hospitals. They reminded me that money couldn't buy everything, though I spent most of my life pretending it could. I knocked once on the door to 507, didn't wait for an answer, and walked in. The woman in the bed was small, shrunken by illness, connected to machines that beeped rhythmically. Her hair was thin and gray, pulled back from a face that might have been pretty once but was now hollowed out by whatever was killing her. I started to apologize, realizing immediately this wasn't David Chen's mother. Wrong room. Jennifer had made a mistake. Then the woman opened her eyes. They were green, bright, sharp green, even through the exhaustion and pain. I knew those eyes. I'd known them when they were younger, angrier, full of life I hadn't appreciated. My chest tightened. My throat closed. Marcus. Her voice was barely a whisper, rough and disbelieving. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The room tilted slightly, 20 years collapsing into a single moment of recognition I wasn't prepared for. Her name was Elena, Elaine Rodriguez, and I'd left her in a parking lot in Austin, Texas, in 2005, with nothing but a note and $300 cash. A teenager stirred in the chair beside her bed. A boy, maybe 17 or 18, lanky and tired, his head resting against the wall. He woke slowly, blinking at me with confusion, then alarm. He had my eyes, dark brown, slightly downturned at the corners. My mother's eyes. The eyes I saw every morning in the mirror. Who are you? The boy asked, standing quickly, protective, moving between me and Elena. Elena's hand reached weakly toward him. Daniel, she said softly. It's okay, Daniel. I felt something crack inside my chest. She'd named him Daniel. That had been my father's name. This is. Elena paused, her eyes locked on mine, waiting to see what I'd do. This is Marcus. An old friend. Old friend. The words were generous, undeserved. I'd been 25, ambitious, hungry for a success I hadn't yet earned. She'd been 23, working 2 jobs, attending community college at night, dreaming of becoming a teacher. We'd been together for 2 years, living in a cramped apartment that smelled like her grandmother's cooking and my cheap cologne. I'd told her I loved her. I'd meant it, I think, in the shallow way young men mean things before they understand what love actually costs. Then I got the offer. A startup in Silicon Valley needed a junior developer willing to work 100-hour weeks for equity that might be worthless. It was a lottery ticket, a chance to become someone. Elena was pregnant. 7 weeks, she told me the night before the offer came through, her face glowing with terrified hope, waiting for me to say we'd figure it out together. I didn't say that. I said I needed time to think. Then I left while she was at work, packed everything I owned into my car, and drove north. I left a note on the kitchen counter. I can't do this. I'm sorry. This is all I have. $300. Enough for maybe 2 weeks of groceries. I told myself she'd be fine. She had family. She was strong. She'd find someone better, someone ready. I told myself a lot of things that made it easier to sleep at night. 20 years. I'd never looked back, never called, never checked. I built my empire on the foundation of walking away. And now here she was, dying in a hospital bed, with our son standing between us like a wall I'd built myself. I should have left. I should have apologized, backed out of the room, and pretended it never happened. Instead, I stood there, frozen, while Daniel stared at me with suspicion and Elena struggled to sit up slightly, her breathing labored. "You can go," Elena said quietly. "I'm sure you're busy." She was giving me an out. Even now, even after everything, she was letting me walk away cleanly. "What's wrong with you?" I asked. The question came out harder than I intended, clinical, like I was reviewing a business problem. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer," Elena said simply. "6 months ago they gave me a year." Looks like they were optimistic. Daniel's jaw tightened. His hands clenched into fists. "We don't need anything from you," he said. "You can leave." Elena started. "No, Mom." His voice cracked slightly. "You don't owe him anything, not even politeness." He was right. She didn't. But she looked at me anyway, and I saw something in her face I didn't deserve. A curiosity, maybe, or just the exhaustion of someone too tired to hold grudges. "How have you been, Marcus?" How had I been? I'd been successful, powerful, rich beyond anything I'd imagined in that cramped Austin apartment. I'd dated models and celebrities. I'd been profiled in Forbes and TechCrunch. I'd built 3 companies from nothing and sold 2 of them for numbers that made headlines. "Good," I said. "I've been good." The word felt obscene in that room, surrounded by machines keeping Elena alive and a son who hated me without knowing who I really was. "I saw an article about you," Elena said. "Maybe 5 years ago. You just sold your second company." I thought about reaching out, but I figured. She paused, breathing carefully. "I figured you'd built a life that didn't have room for us." "Does he know?" I asked, looking at Daniel. Elena shook her head slightly. "I told him his father left before he was born. That he wasn't ready to be a parent. That it wasn't Daniel's fault." "It wasn't," I said automatically. "Then whose fault was it?" Daniel shot back. "Because my mom worked herself half to death raising me alone. She taught elementary school for 20 years, took summer jobs to pay for my college fund, never bought herself anything new. And you were just too busy." I had no answer that wouldn't sound like an excuse, because it was an excuse. All of it. I'd chosen ambition over responsibility, success over them. And I'd won, by every metric the world measured, except the one that mattered. "I'm sorry," I said. The words were inadequate, pathetic. 20 years too late. "Sorry doesn't pay medical bills," Daniel said bitterly. "Sorry doesn't give her back the life she deserved." He wasn't wrong. Elena had Medicaid, I learned later. The hospital social worker had helped her qualify after her diagnosis. Her insurance from teaching covered some things, but not enough. The treatments were draining what little savings she had. Daniel was working nights at a warehouse while attending state college, trying to keep them afloat. They were surviving, barely. I had $40 million in liquid assets alone. I'd spent more on my car than Elena probably made in 5 years, and I'd never once wondered if they were okay. "Let me help," I said. "We don't want your help," Daniel snapped. "Daniel," Elena said again, softer this time. "Let me talk to him, alone, just for a minute." Daniel looked like he wanted to refuse, but he loved his mother too much to deny her anything. He grabbed his jacket, shot me a look of pure hatred, and walked out, leaving the door open deliberately, making it clear I wasn't trusted. Elena waited until his footsteps faded down the hallway. Then she looked at me with those green eyes, still sharp despite everything. "You don't owe us anything, Marcus. I made peace with what happened a long time ago." "I owe you everything," I said. "Everything I built because I walked away from you." "That's not strength. That's cowardice." "Maybe, Elena said. But it's done. You can't fix it by writing a check now. Then what can I do? She was quiet for a long time. Machines beeped. Someone laughed distantly in the hallway. Elena closed her eyes, and for a moment I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then she opened them again and said, "He's angry. He's terrified. He's about to watch me die and he's going to be completely alone. His grandparents are gone. He has no siblings, no safety net. He's one bad month away from losing everything. I can help with that," I said. "He won't take money from you," Elena said. "Not directly. He's proud, stubborn. He gets that from you, probably." "Then what? Just don't disappear again." Her voice broke slightly. "I don't need anything from you." "But he does. He just doesn't know it yet. When I'm gone, he's going to need someone. Not a checkbook. Someone." I wanted to promise. I wanted to say I'd be there, that I'd changed, that I was different now. But I'd made promises before. I'd broken every one. "I don't know if I know how to do that," I admitted. Elena smiled faintly, sad and knowing. "Then learn. You figured out how to build companies. Figure out how to be a father." I didn't leave after that conversation. I told Jennifer to cancel my meetings. I called my lawyer and told him to handle the merger without me. For the first time in 20 years, I stayed. Daniel came back an hour later, suspicious and hostile. I was still sitting in the visitor's chair, watching Elena sleep. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, waiting for me to explain myself. "I'm not leaving," I said. "Good for you," Daniel replied coldly. "You want a medal?" "I want to help." "We don't need help from someone who abandoned us." "You're right," I said. "You don't need it." "But I'm offering it anyway." Over the next 3 weeks, I showed up every day. I sat in that chair while Elena slept. I brought Daniel coffee he refused to drink. I paid the hospital bills quietly through administrative channels so he wouldn't know. I hired the best oncologists in the state to review Elena's case, hoping for a miracle that didn't exist. She declined rapidly. The cancer was aggressive, merciless. She had good days and bad days, and the bad days started outnumbering the good. Daniel barely spoke to me. He tolerated my presence only because Elena asked him to. One night, Elena woke up around midnight. Daniel had gone home to shower and sleep for a few hours. I was alone with her, reading emails on my phone, pretending work still mattered. "You're still here," she said, her voice barely audible. "Yeah? Why?" I put my phone down. "Because I should have been here 20 years ago." "That doesn't answer the question." I thought about it. Really thought about it. Why was I there? Guilt? Obligation? Some desperate attempt to rewrite history? "Because you asked me not to disappear," I said finally. "And because for once in my life, I want to do the right thing, even if it's too late." Elena reached for my hand. Her skin was paper thin, cold. I held it carefully, afraid I might break her. "It's not too late for him," she whispered. "He needs you. He won't admit it, but he does. He hates me. He hates that you left." "That's different." She closed her eyes, exhausted. "Talk to him. Really talk to him. Not about money, about life, about mistakes, about being human." 2 days later, Elena slipped into a coma. The doctors said it was a matter of hours, maybe a day. Daniel sat beside her, holding her hand, silent, tears running down his face. I sat on the other side, useless and broken, watching the son I'd never raised say goodbye to the woman I'd abandoned. She died just before dawn. Quietly, peacefully. The machines went silent. Daniel sobbed into her hand, and I sat there, unable to cry, unable to move, realizing I'd lost her twice here, once by choice, once by consequence. The funeral was small. A few of Elena's former colleagues from the elementary school, some neighbors, Daniel and me, standing at the back, unwelcome but unable to stay away. Daniel didn't speak to me afterward. He collected his mother's ashes, signed the paperwork, and walked out of the funeral home without looking back. I followed him to the parking lot. "Daniel," I called. He stopped but didn't turn around. "What do you want?" "To talk." "There's nothing to say." "There's everything to say," I said. "I know you hate me. You have every right to. But your mother asked me to be here. Not for her. For you." He turned slowly, his face hard and empty. You think showing up makes you my father? You think 3 weeks erases 20 years? No, I said. I don't think that. But I'm asking for a chance anyway. A chance to what? Feel better about yourself, ease your guilt. A chance to know you, I said. A chance to be part of your life. If you let me. Daniel laughed bitterly. You're 20 years too late. I know. But I'm here now. He stared at me for a long time. I saw Elena in his face, here the shape of his eyes, the stubborn set of his jaw. But I saw myself too. The anger, the pride, the fear of trusting people who'd hurt him before. I don't need your money, he said finally. I'm not offering money. I'm offering time. Why would I want that? Because she asked you to give me a chance. And because maybe, just maybe, we both need it. He didn't answer. He got in his car and drove away, leaving me standing alone in the parking lot, the same way I'd left Elena all those years ago. But this time, I didn't run. I stayed in San Francisco. I kept showing up. I sent Daniel a message every few days, and nothing heavy, nothing demanding, just small things. Articles I thought he'd find interesting, an offer to meet for coffee, an apology, over and over, in different words that all meant the same thing. I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm trying. He ignored most of them. Sometimes he replied with one word, busy or no thanks. I kept trying anyway, because Elena had asked me to. Because Daniel deserved better than abandonment, even if it came 20 years late. Because I'd spent 2 decades building an empire, and none of it meant anything compared to the life I could have had. 6 months after Elena's death, Daniel finally agreed to meet. A coffee shop in Berkeley, neutral territory, 30 minutes max. He sat across from me, guarded and uncomfortable, checking his phone every few minutes like he was looking for an escape route. Thank you for coming, I said. Don't make this a big deal, he replied. I'm here because I promised my mum I'd try, not because I forgive you. I understand. We sat in silence. I didn't know how to talk to him. I didn't know how to be a father. I'd built companies, led teams, negotiated billion-dollar deals. But I had no idea how to reach the son I'd never known. She talked about you sometimes, Daniel said finally, especially near the end. She said you were brilliant, ambitious, that you would have been suffocated by ordinary life. She was wrong, I said. I suffocated anyway, just in a bigger, emptier house. Daniel looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something shift in his face. Not forgiveness, not trust, but maybe the beginning of understanding. That I was human, that I'd made mistakes, that success hadn't saved me from regret. I don't know if we can fix this, he said quietly. We can't fix it, I agreed. But maybe we can build something new, something that isn't about the past. He didn't answer, but he didn't leave either. We sat there for an hour, talking carefully about small things, his classes, his job, his plans. It wasn't redemption, it wasn't healing, but it was a start. And for the first time in 20 years, that felt like enough. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some doors close permanently because we waited too long to knock. But sometimes, if we're lucky, we get a second chance we don't deserve, here not to fix what broke, but to build something different from the pieces. Showing up doesn't erase absence. Money doesn't replace time. And good intentions don't rewrite history. But they can write a new chapter, if both people are willing to turn the page. The hardest part is accepting that you can't have back what you lost. You can only choose, carefully and humbly, what to do with what remains.